What if the movies you trust the most actually get it wrong? What if the loudest battles, the clean victories, the perfect machines are the least honest parts? Because real tank crews don't judge films by explosions. They judge them by silence, confusion, pressure, and mistakes. Halfway through this list, one film flips everything you think you know about armored warfare. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Fury, 2014. This is not a story about a tank. It is a story about 5 people trapped inside one. When Fury arrived in 2014, audiences talked about mud, grit, and raw intensity. Tank crews talked about something else entirely. The way people spoke to each other when things went wrong. The pauses, the clipped commands, the silence after a bad decision. That is where Fury quietly earns its respect. The film is set in the final months of the Second World War and follows a single American crew moving through collapsing enemy territory. What matters is not where they go, but how they function together. Fury does not treat the tank as a magic shield. It treats it like a fragile machine that only works if everyone inside stays sharp. When something breaks, panic does not explode outward. It folds inward. Faces tighten. Voices lower. That detail alone made real crews lean forward. One of the biggest reasons Fury stands out is what it refuses to do. It never pretends the Sherman was unbeatable. It shows crews avoiding direct fights they cannot win. It shows hesitation. It shows teamwork as survival, not heroism. Real tankers have pointed out that the film gets something rare exactly right. Victory is not about courage alone. It is about positioning, timing, and knowing when to move as one. That is why Fury lasts. Not because it looks real, because it feels real. Lebanon, 2009. This film barely lets you see the outside world, and that is exactly the point. Lebanon from 2009 is one of the most uncomfortable tank films ever made. Not because it is loud, because it is quiet in the wrong moments. Almost the entire movie takes place inside a single tank. You do not get wide views. You do not get clean explanations. You see the world the way the crew sees it, through optics, through dust, through fragments of movement that may or may not matter. Tank crews often describe their job as waiting, followed by chaos, followed by waiting again. Lebanon understands that rhythm completely. Long stretches of nothing, sweat, breathing, doubt. Then a moment arrives and nobody feels ready. The film never rushes these transitions. It lets discomfort sit. That patience is what makes veterans nod instead of roll their eyes. What really separates Lebanon from most war films is how it treats information. The crew never knows everything. Orders come incomplete. Situations shift without warning. A shape in the distance could be a threat or nothing at all. The film refuses to clarify these moments for the audience. If the crew is unsure, so are you. That choice alone makes the experience feel authentic. There is no celebration of power here. The tank is not freedom, it is confinement. The metal walls protect, but they also trap sound, heat, and fear. Lebanon does not ask you to admire tanks. It asks you to understand what it is like to live inside one when certainty disappears. And that is why tank crews quietly say it got it right. The Beast, 1988. This film understands something most tank movies ignore. A tank stops being powerful the moment it is alone. The Beast from 1988 does not rush to impress you. It slows you down first. It places you inside a Soviet tank crew lost in hostile territory and then quietly removes every advantage you think armored vehicles are supposed to have. No support, no clear way out, no certainty that help is coming. That setup alone mirrors one of the most common fears real tank crews talk about: isolation. Veterans often say the tank is only strong when it is part of a system. Fuel lines, maintenance, communications, other vehicles nearby. The Beast removes those one by one. The tank still moves, it still looks intimidating, but slowly it becomes a burden. Every mile forward raises the same question: how do we get back? What makes this film stand out is how it treats the machine. The tank is not romantic. It breaks down. It overheats. It demands attention at the worst times. The crew is forced to argue about choices that feel small but carry huge weight. Turn here or wait. Push forward or hide. Fix the problem now or risk it getting worse later. These are the kinds of decisions tank crews recognize immediately. Inside the vehicle, the tension builds without shouting. Voices lower. Tempers stretch thin. The confined space becomes emotional pressure. There is no room to escape frustration. When someone makes a mistake, everyone pays for it. That shared consequence is one of the most accurate details in the film. Tankers often say there is no such thing as an individual error inside a tank. Everything is shared. The beast also respects time. It shows how stress changes people gradually, not in explosive moments, but in silence. A pause before speaking. A glance that lingers too long. Sahara, 1943. This movie is old. The realism is not. Sahara from 1943 is often dismissed as a product of its time. Black and white. Studio-era performances. Familiar faces. But tank crews who have studied armored history keep coming back to it for one reason. The army was deeply involved, and it shows in the details. The tank in Sahara is not a background prop. It is part of the story's logic. The crew worries about water, about heat, about how far they can go before the machine becomes useless. Those concerns may sound simple, but they are foundational. Veterans will tell you that armored vehicles are not about endless movement. They are about limits. The tank, nicknamed Lulu Bell, was a real M3 Lee loaned by the United States Army. The military did not just hand it over and walk away. They supported the production, provided personnel, and made sure procedures looked right. The way the crew mounts, dismounts, and communicates reflects real practice from the era. What surprises modern viewers is how restrained the film is. The tank does not charge recklessly. It conserves, it waits, it uses position instead of speed. Tank crews have noted that this reflects how vehicles were actually used in desert conditions, where overconfidence could leave you stranded. The environment plays a major role. Heat is not a background detail. It is an active threat. Water is not a convenience. It is survival. Sahara treats logistics as drama, which is exactly how real armored operations function. You can have the strongest vehicle in the world, but without planning, it becomes a liability. The crew dynamic is another reason this film endures. Roles are clear. Responsibility is shared. When something goes wrong, there is no grand speech. There is quiet tension and immediate adjustment. The Tanks Are Coming, 1951. This movie does something most war films still avoid. It admits that American tanks were not the best machines on the field. Released in 1951, The Tanks Are Coming looks modest on the surface. No massive stars, no sweeping speeches, no glossy hero moments. But among tank crews and armored historians, it earns quiet respect for one major reason. It shows how tank warfare actually worked when technology was uneven and survival depended on tactics, not confidence. The film follows an American tank platoon in France during 1944. Instead of presenting tanks as unstoppable forces, it shows them as vulnerable tools. Crews worry about enemy vehicles they know can overpower them head-on. They talk about angles, about movement, about hitting from the side. These are not dramatic inventions. That is exactly how real crews adapted when their machines were outmatched. One of the most striking elements is how the film treats loss. Tanks are damaged, crews escape, survivors climb into replacement vehicles and return to action. There is no pause for glory or speeches. The process feels procedural, almost routine. There is no attempt to make the tanks feel sleek or powerful beyond their limits. Mechanical problems are part of the story. Terrain matters. Coordination matters. Numbers matter. Tank crews often say this film captures the truth that armored warfare is rarely about one heroic vehicle. It is about groups moving together, compensating for weaknesses. What makes The Tanks Are Coming stand out decades later is its honesty. It does not rewrite history to flatter anyone. It shows crews adapting, surviving, and pushing forward with machines that were imperfect but familiar. That grounded perspective is why modern tankers still point to it as an example of realism done right. It is not flashy. It does not beg for attention. But it understands how tanks were actually used, and that understanding has aged better than spectacle ever could. So the next time a tank rolls onto the screen, ask yourself a better question. Not does it look powerful, but does it feel real? Real pressure, real limits, real people inside metal walls making choices with no clean answers. If one of these films surprised you, drop it in the comments. Subscribe for more stories that cut through the noise. Because realism is not loud, it is honest.